Well, my name is Anne Giljebrekke, or that's the American way, Anne Giljebrekke, or Anne Giljebrekke. I am 59 years old.
Wow. You look amazing.
Likewise, thank you. I keep young by working with young people. That's kind of like the trick. I have a 17-year-old daughter and, 2, and had 3 other children. And just being a little childish and being unafraid and curious on life I think that's one of the main things. And being thankful.
Yeah.
I don't know how deep we're going to go straight away, but
girl,
that was my age.
Your beautiful story, and I get to share your heart and your world with whoever's going to watch this.
That's what we're here for. I mean, it's like once you pass that bridge of deciding to be open and not care anymore about how you look to other people, but more the burning desire of helping, then it doesn't matter. You can ask me anything. If it's too bad, I'll just say no. That one I don't want to answer, but it's like freeing to be able to speak from my heart and sincere and don't have to pretend in any way. It's a relief.
It's liberating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. In 2016, I decided to go to college. And it wasn't just my idea. It was one of my close family friends' idea. She needed to go to college and she didn't want to go alone. And I said, I'll join you. So that was one of the crazy things that started the Tampa experience. And for me, it lasted for 1.5 years, living in a 1-room apartment with 2 girls, which was wonderful. And I got to go back to college, and I loved to go to school. And in this college, I heard about this Dr. Gold and Professor Curley. That was the only names I knew about this college. And I thought, okay, so we'll try to join as many classes with them as possible because we want to do entrepreneurship. We want to see how people can start a business in the States. That's how it started. And these two, the couple, they start, the 2 professors, they are awesome in having all kinds of events that they took us with because they wanted the teaching to be very practical.
I felt this great connection with you. I love anybody that is doing something daring. And I always love when people have the courage to ask for help or ask for what they want. And you were just bold. You were like, I want to learn about what you're doing and I want to learn about media and can I come and like film you? And I was like, yeah, sure.
In that meet the neighbors, you said you just keep giving out. Because I said, how do you get all these people? How do you get into so many things? How do you expand your business the way you're doing? I mean, you're just succeeding everywhere. I asked you something like that, and you said, I just keep giving because I think, part of what I've been trained to do, and the universe will always bring it back. So I love the way that it's not calculating. I will give you this if you will do that for me. It's always like, just keep pushing it out. At one point it will come back to you, but that's not the goal. Just the goal is just be there. And if you have something to give, just give it away.
Yeah. So anyway, it's August 11th. I record the podcast and I get a Facebook message from you. So why don't I'll help you through it. We've already cried together physically. We can do it through Zoom too. You got your tissues. And you sent me this message that took my breath away. And now my breath has been taken away quite a bit lately. It's a very tough time right now for the world. And I think that we all need to come together, right? And so go ahead and tell them because I don't know how we're going to get through this.
I don't either. But, the short story is I have 4 kids, only 1 son. And he was 27 years old. And he was the happiest kid ever. He was like a social super connector. He knew everybody and he would always help everybody. So he was like a happy kid. And his name was Thomas. He was like in his best years right now. He loved his job. He was like escalating like this in his company. He was working at the head office and he was like a prospect to one of the leader jobs. And just everything was going his way. He lived in the capital in Oslo, which is about like 3 hours away from here. With his best friend from growing up since ever. And they were just like, so his sister, one of his sisters said, I want your life, Thomas, because you're just enjoying your life so much. He was always happy. So he came to visit in July. He went to visit all of us, and he stayed the night, and we talked about everything. And he always had exciting things to talk about. So we were talking about life and death and heaven and what we believed in and everything. And it was great. We had a wonderful talk in the end of July. And then he'd been to all his sisters, and even went out to an island to find his other sister. And we had no idea about what was to come. So on at 10:08 on August 9th, 2019, I was I do similar work with Sharon, not as well, but I do a lot of television.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a crew of, I think we were like 7 or 9 people sitting there. We had the press passes. We were so proud. We had the sweaters, all our gear ready to go to this big event. And we're going to interview the Prime Minister of Norway, which is pretty big to get that. We were so excited. We were sitting there getting ready, and I heard a little beep on my phone. And I saw there was a mail from my son, and it started with, "I'm sorry." So I just said, I'm just going to check what this is. So I had no idea, other than maybe he's like short of cash, or maybe something happened that he needs his mama. So I started reading, and it just started, I froze. I was in a shopping mall, and I just stood there, and I read this mail from this boy who just said, "I'm so sorry to tell you this way, but I just can't go on anymore." And it was like, what is it that's so difficult? It's like, what do you can't go on? Do you need to move back? What is it? It's like, so I only read half the mail before I understood he's really, really hurting. There's something crazy wrong here. So I called the guy that he was living with, his best friend, and I just told him this letter, and he said, "I'm going back home right away." He hasn't been feeling well for a couple of days, but I'm just going to go home and check on him. So he went straight back, and then I called my daughter, and she had this search thing. So he found him right away, and she said, "He's not at home." So she called the ambulance, the police, everything. And I'd finished the letter by then, and I realized that he was saying goodbye, which was awful. It was a beautiful letter that he had pre-done on his notes. So it was like just copy paste. So probably when he gave it to me, he just went ahead and ended his life right there. So that was like such a great shock.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's take
I don't have words.
I know. I want to take a breath with you for just a minute, because and honor the unbelievable feeling that you must have had and still have to this day, talking about it and feeling it. So I almost feel like every time I say take a breath, it's like say a prayer.
Yeah.
Let's just say a prayer. So that news is just, I can't even imagine. And I know that you didn't know anything about me except for me business.
Just being a very successful business lady.
I would know that when you hear somebody else that has lost a child, that all of the things that you say about Thomas, all the things that you have always said, I would have never known. He had this great life. It's so common. It's so common that it shouldn't be common, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the scariest part of the whole thing.
Yes.
Why don't they say it? Why don't they talk? Because it's yeah. You go ahead.
You know, I think that the reason that we reconnected so much was you started listening to the reading of my book on the podcast.
Yes.
And I remember when you release a book, which I'm sure I can't wait to get to talk about some of the good stuff, but we have to get through the hard stuff to get to the really great stuff, that such is life. I didn't know, and you probably felt some identification about maybe how Thomas was feeling, because I went into it a little bit about mm-hmm. how I suffered from my depression and how I couldn't talk about it.
The one thing that everybody knows you as this very happy person, and you hate this other part of you. It doesn't connect with who everybody thinks you are. because it feels like maybe fraud, I think.
Yes.
That they don't know me, who I really am, and I can't talk about it. Even if I want to, I can't tell anybody about it because I can't live with myself if they know. Or maybe, I don't know if it's a fear. If I show my real self, maybe people won't love me, or they will just,
Well, I fell into depression. I didn't know who I was. I was like, where did I go? And why can't she come back?
You lost yourself in there?
Oh, totally. Like I could put up the facade. I was still, it's like, all right, I'll drag myself out of bed. I was suffering from a lot of trauma every time I was trying to get sober, because now I'm in my mind, but I've put all these chemicals in my brain and I can't think straight anymore. So when I don't have them, when I didn't have the drugs and alcohol, was every time I fell into a depression, thinking that I was a burden. I was, that's why it always kills me when I hear people say that it is so selfish for somebody to die by suicide. I know that takes your breath away, because you read that letter. I have no idea what's in that letter, and I'm quite sure.
He even said it himself. I know that it's selfish to do this, but I know, it's like some people have told me that I think this is the one time in his life that he actually was able to think about himself, but because he couldn't do it anymore. And he said the reason he hadn't done it before was because of the love that was around him and everybody he loved so much. But the pain was like just growing worse and worse and worse. And this was his only solution out, which is terrible. But I wish it wasn't an option. And in one way, it's like you understand this terrible pain. It's not like a suicide you want to do to hurt people. It's like, just get me out of this terrible pain. I can't stand it anymore. That's how I understood him.
Well, I felt, it was the only hope for me was to leave the earth. Now, saying that out loud today, right? It's 25 years later that I felt that way.
You want one?
I do. Give me a virtual tissue, please. But really, every time I hear about somebody that has died by suicide, I thank God that they are out of pain, because I identify with the pain. It doesn't make it easier for you, that's for sure. There's this really great podcast I'm going to tell you about right now that I've been sending to people that are in my life that I know have lost a child, especially. His name is David Kessler, and he's the one that's talking about grief and talking about how you should feel or could feel, and then his son dies. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he said so many things that were like, you can't, no matter what, no matter if you were, say you said you were grateful that Thomas is out of pain, you would prefer to have him here more than anything else in the world.
Of course.
So it's like, if I'm going to integrate this at all into how we're feeling right now as a world, as a globe, no matter what, if I was to say, well, everybody, you should wake up and exercise and meditate like I do and help somebody else and you'll feel great. Well, I'm quite sure somebody...
Don't you experience that people, can I say cut the crap?
You can say shit.
Well, anyway, it's like, that's what I felt, especially after writing the book. And as I know your own life, when you've been so open with what you've struggled with, then people say, hi, Sharon, how are you? And then your next sentence is, I read your book and this is my worst thing.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of talking about all kinds of things that don't really matter, it feels like people are ripping off their heart and just telling you their worst life, and it feels good to them, and it's good to me too. It's like they trust you.
Yes.
I think it's so valuable, even that you're writing your book, and then one more, I don't even know what that's about, but I just, wow.
Well,
go for it.
Well, thanks, but this is about you. So I wanted to talk about your book because I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy, and I want to get my hands on it and all of the things. But before we get there, You have no idea what anybody else is going through.
That's true.
You need not judge anybody.
No. And if anything comes out of having such a horrible experience of things that we have, being through the things, it's that you get humble. You don't judge people anymore. I mean, I have no right to judge anybody. I haven't been in their shoes. So it's more like, okay, if people act rudely or whatever they do, I just think, okay, this is where you are. You must be really hurting to act like this.
Yes.
Because and this is where you are right now. You can't expect people to be somewhere else.
Yes.
You just have to, this is where you are right now. Let me talk to you where you are right now.
Yes. It really does give you a great sense of empathy and lack of judgment for others when you have endured your own pain and overcome your own adversity. It's kind of unbelievable that you get to open yourself up. We are blessed that we've told that story and given somebody the grace to share their pain with us.
That's true. You just give hope to that one person.
That's it.
That's worth all of it. And what we see is like, it's a lot more than one. And that is like the most giving thing in the middle of your own pain. Yeah. The fact that actually you can ease somebody else's pain or give them hope for people who had given up or were in total despair, that your book brought me hope. Even though I cried through the whole book, your book really made a difference to me. And it's like, that's worth it all.
Right. You said to me, everything was worth it because knowing that I brought you a small amount of peace.
You did. But the timing was so crazy right then. You were sitting at the hotel and I was watching you online, and then my son passed away and I couldn't read anything. I couldn't see anything. But then, like 3 days later, you had recorded your book. I had no idea what you went through, but it was like, that was almost the only thing I could listen to. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't be out with people. I just cried and listened.
So, girl, we were brought together for a reason. You can't quit. You can't, as they say, you can't make this shit up.
You can't.
So let's get away the ugly tears for a moment and bring this to today.
I think they're beautiful. Let me see. Yeah, they're awesome. Look up, child.
Look up, child. Go ahead, girl. Throw it out there. All right. So now you're like, I'm going to write a book. And I'm like, you're going to write about this. So tell everybody what you did.
Well, I woke up one morning. I was staying with my oldest daughter because we had to stay together after all this stuff was going on. And I woke up day after day with this thing, write the book in English, because that's how I feel that, God talks to me.
He talks to you in English.
I love English. Nice. My dad was born in New York. I've always liked English. Or American. Anyway, I just write the book. And I said, write the book? My life is a mess. I don't even know if I can write my signature anywhere. What do you mean? Like, write the book? And I kept hearing it. And this was in the middle of the process, the first few days after. And I just listened to your book and I just wrote you. And I said, I think I'm supposed to write a book. I don't know what I didn't really know that it was about the suicide and about Thomas. I just knew I was supposed to write a book. And you were just typical Sharon. You just said, do it. I'll give you all the material. Here's the layout. This is the person I talked to here. And this is how you can do that. And this is how you can get the cover. And this is how you can. It's like, okay, I have no excuse now. So, and you said, write it in 5 days. And it's like, I just copied everything. I said, my mind's not working at all.
Yes. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to wheel your own.
A good friend who's succeeded in something, just follow it. Just copy.
But but I think that there's this little, like, people feel bad when they, listen, I love Gary Vee. I tell everybody, don't listen to me, listen to him. I don't give a shit. I just want you to do, right? And when I opened a night division at the last practice I was in, I followed somebody else's model, but I made it my own. But you make it your own, and you made it your own. It doesn't matter. I mean, you are a light to the world. So I was like, I remember turning to Rob, reading your message to me, and I go, she's gonna write a book. Like, I'm crying, right? Telling him, I'm like, she's gonna write the book, and then she's gonna talk about what happened to her and her kids and life after this, and how you're gonna heal with others, right? Because we need community.
That's true.
We need each other.
We definitely do. And it's like, it's I could feel when I was standing there, because I started writing the book about 4 weeks after, I think, or a few weeks. Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks.
25 years. You're like, I'm doing it 4 days later. You're amazing. You're amazing.
But I mean, if you could do it, I said, I can do it. If she can do it in 5 days, I'll do it in 5 days. I don't want to put, because some people say, one day I'm going to do this, and one day it's like, I'm like, if I'm going to do it now, I can't do anything anyway, because my mind's not working. I'm crying all the time. So I might as well just dig into this. And that's part of, I guess, part of the life that I've lived before. I've had quite a few traumatic experiences.
Yes.
And tragedies happening in our family. And I've just used the Band-Aid, ripped the Band-Aid off. Yeah. So that's what I felt like too. I have to go through all these stages that it just seems so boring. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
Or hide. I picture this big hole, black hole that I could just jump into in self-pity, and everybody would understand. No, you can't work. You have to be there. You have to stay just at home. Don't go out by people because you're crying. But I felt the urge of writing the book. And so you said 5 days. So I blocked myself. I had to find a nice place. I don't even remember where I was, to be sincere. I have no idea where I wrote it.
I get that. It's like a blackout you go into.
It's a blackout, total blackout. Mm-hmm. But I sat down and I wrote most of the book in 5 days. Absolutely. I ate, I cried, I slept a little bit, and then I just wrote and wrote and wrote. March 12th.
Yeah.
So
well, you're having a virtual book launch here, right here in the United States of America, right here in Tampa Bay.
That's nice. To all your million viewers.
Let me see the book. Show everybody the book.
Let you see the book. Here it is.
All right, tell everybody what that means. That is American.
That's my name, which is really, really difficult to, And it says, Losing a Son in Suicide. And then the subtitle is The Boy Who Always Smiled. Which is like, the back is a picture of me and Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a short story of what happened. Very short. And it's not a very thick book. And it's like when my editor, because I hired a guy just to go through it and, wash the language and I needed to have breathing space.
Yeah.
See how it is? Because the first thing he said, you can't have all the space. And I said, I need it. And so many people have told me it's such a good book. I've had to have 10 days to read this little book because I needed breaks because it was so rough. All the people that knew my son. So that's why I need to breathe.
In English?
And I'm sure they do too. Huh?
Is it in English?
I'm sort of thinking of starting. When I was in the States in January, I started translating it, but then I've been working crazy hours. So
I'm pulling for us here in Tampa Bay. What, you think that Andy and Beth don't want to read that? Dr. Gold and
they will.
Beth from HCC, we want this book.
Okay. Point taken. I will do it then too. How are you doing? I don't have a New York purse. I have to do something else. Laughing is very, very healthy for you.
You win.
I win? I don't even have a New York
I love you. So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.